there! Shipmates, how you be? COVID treating you friendly. I hope you're enjoying your old lockdowns and getting involved and doing things and learning new skills like we're going to do today, where we learn more pirating skills in lesson number 19. Only 19, some people say. Other people say 19, that's way too many. What are you still doing on our computers? But enough of that. I think we just ignore them and blast straight through, because that's what we pirates do. We just storm things. What do? We go, arr! That be right. All together now. Arr! Arr! We didn't even have to put them together. They just came together by themselves. Did you notice that? We are getting so advanced. We know now our arr from our elbow. Good job. Right. What are we covering today? Oh, lots of things. Lots of little things and all that sort of stuff. Some things we said we'd cover, and other things, well, we'll do whatever. But what I want to talk to you about to start off with, right, is a few more of these terms, you know, these little sayings and things that we know these days. But you don't realise they come from pirates. Isn't that right, Mr. Wilson? Arr, right? There he is. Mr. Wilson's with me as well. Arr, it's good to see you back in fighting fettle. Although he's a little quiet at the moment because I've taken his tongue and put it off somewhere else. Just to keep things between you and me, right? Otherwise he keeps interrupting all the time. All right. Now, first word, right? Footloose. You heard of that name? Footloose and fancy free. Arr, I hear there was even one of them celluloidy things called Footloose. What does it mean? Well, it's a naval thing again. It's us, the pirates. Footloose, right? You see, this is the mainsail. We talked about that before, right? The bottom of the mainsail is called the foot. Arr, sensible enough. And so when it hasn't been secured, it's loose, footloose, and it flaps around all over the place, right? That's what it means about being all over the shop, right? With your foot loose, you're not tied down to anything, right? You're off fancy free. That's where it comes from, the footloose, right? That. Now, another one, right? Another one. You've heard about being over a barrel, right? You heard about being over a barrel, over a barrel, being a bad thing, right? Well, being a barrel, right? We talked about the cat o' nine tails. Remember the cat o' nine tails, right? When the cat out of the bag and all that kind of stuff. Right? Well, they used to lash you up to give you a whip so you hold still, right? So they either do it to the mast, right? The mast of the ship there, right there. Or they tie you over the gun. I think I mentioned that before about, you know, kissing the gunner's daughter, they used to call that. They tie you over the gun. Or they tie you over a barrel, right? And so having you over a barrel was a bad thing. Where did that come from, right? What about shake a leg? You heard about shake a leg? It means hurry up and get going and all that kind of stuff. Come on, shake a leg, right? Again, we used to sleep in hammocks, right? We'd be in hammocks. So you'd be lying there in hammocks and all that kind of stuff. So you'd have the whole crew with you lying in their hammocks waiting to come out, or the shift of the crew that were sleeping at the time, right? And if they weren't getting out there, they'd yell at them, shake a leg or show a leg, right? That's what they used to say. And what that meant, they want to see your leg coming off out of the hammock, because you know in a hammock you sort of sink into it, right? They want to see that leg coming out and you get moving, right? So that's where that comes from. Shake a leg was about getting out of your hammock in time. Ah, see? Interesting stuff like that. What about touch and go? You heard about touch and go, right? Heard that? Things are a bit touch and go. You're not sure if it's going to work out or not, right? Ah, again, it was us. You're going into like a bay, you're right, in a port there, or a bay, and it's a bit shallow. You're not so sure if you're going to do there. Remember the boats? This is just the top, actually. Well, there's no load in this one because normally you sail down there, right? So you're sailing along, right, underneath. It's all underneath the water there. And underneath, you're not sure how deep it is, right? Sometimes things will be a bit touch and go. You might scrape across the bottom and then keep going. That's touch and go, so you'd be happy to do it, and that's where it comes from. When things are a bit touch and go, you're not sure if you're going to get run aground or not, right? So that's where that one comes from. And the last one I'm going to cover, right, is Slush Fund. You heard that? Slush Fund. It's like a bit of money you keep aside and stuff like that. Well, that again comes from the sailors, right? The cooks, in fact, right? Because we know we talked about the bully beef and the beef and stuff like that, right? And it was all salted beef, right? So it'd be dried out and all that kind of stuff. So they'd boil that off, right? And as they boiled it off, they get fatty slush on the top because the fatty bits of what's not, you know, makes it rot faster and all that sort of stuff. So they boil all that off, right? So they boil it off, and then all the greasy stuff would all sit on the top, and they'd scrape that off, right? They'd scrape all that off, and the cook would keep that. And when you got to a port, you'd actually sell it to somebody to make candles out of, right? And the money you got from that was called the Slush Fund, and that could be used for buying other things, other food products. You know, with the pirates, we'd share it round, but other ships, the cooks would just have a little bonus and all that kind of stuff. But for us, but that's where Slush Fund comes from. See? Interesting stuff. All this stuff, it comes like that. You wouldn't have realised it comes from us pirates and us sailors, right? In those old days, okay? Now, I think I've touched on this a bit before, but I want to talk about all those other names there are for pirates, all right? All the names they label pirates with, over the time and all that kind of stuff. I think I'll talk about that now, unless you want to yell out right now and tell me to stop. You ready? Arr, couldn't hear you. All right. Maybe you need to clear your throats. What about you give me a arr? What about another one? Arr, arr. Oh, put them both together and they go arr. Good, 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 good. Keep them coming. Arr. What's that? Ah, oh, no, didn't hear anything. Okay, so what are we talking about? Arr, that's right, the different types of pirates. That's right, I remember now. Oh. So we'll start with the Buccaneer, all right? The Buccaneer. If you took my cooking one, you would have seen that one. One of my cooking ones talking about the Buccaneers. Because basically, Buccaneers were barbecuers, right? These are Caribbean pirates, right? They lived on the islands, right? And what they used to do is there was all these wild cattle on there, and they used to eat them, right? They cook them in big barbecues. There was a French barbecue called a Buccaneer, and so it was like Buccaneer come from that, right? That just means barbecues, right? So they're really Australian sort of pirates because they're all about the barbecue. All right, and now Corsair, that'd be another French word, the Corsair. That means chasers, right? And that was what they called the pirates, mostly around the Mediterranean, because we chasing things down and all that kind of stuff. So the Corsairs are from the Mediterranean there, right? That. Now, privateer, I think we touched on that a bit before too. The privateer, right? Because the kings and queens there didn't have huge navies all the time, right? The seas are a big place and they wanted a bit of help. And so they'd come to arrangements, right, with a cat. So you come arrangement with a king, right? So if you're English, you might have an arrangement with the English king that you wouldn't attack any of the English ships, right? But you'd be free for all on the Spanish ones and all that kind of stuff, and you pay a bit of your booty off to the king and stuff like that. But it meant you had a port, so you could use the English ports and you'd be protected a bit by the English lord. So that was a privateer. So they were sort of like pirates, but with permission. That was a kind of idea of a privateer, right? And who else we got? The Barbie Pirates. Oh, they're interesting. The Barbie Pirates, right? They were actually from around North Africa, right? These kind of pirates, and they operate around there. Interesting, thing about them, which is a bit of a turn of events, right, is when they captured English ships, these Barbary pirates, right, they used to sell the English sailors for slavery, which is a bit of flip things on its head a bit there, right, that. So, if they were okay and they could get money for them, they'd sell them off for slavery. If they weren't, they would just, get rid of them in other ways, all right. And sea rovers, sea rovers, that'd be another one. That'd be basically a polite way of talking to a pirate. You're a sea rover. So if you'd captured their ship and you go, what you doing? And they'd go, dear sea rover, here, take this little money here and go leave us alone, that kind of thing. They would do that, right? And so a sea rover was like the polite way of doing it. So usually when they were trying to, get away with not, losing their ship and all that kind of stuff, they'd talk politely to you and call you a sea rover, all right. Another one, right, is called a marooner, right? A marooner. That'd be a Spanish word, right? For runaway, it means run away, right? Because that's what they used to call the ones who'd be the slaves, right? Or who'd run away, or the actual seamen who just got sick of being treated so poorly. They used to treat the normal seamen pretty badly in those Spanish ships, right? And so some of them would run away and they became called marooners, those pirates, and they'd go and chase them down like that, and some of them things like that. And interesting enough, that became the name for maroon when they'd leave you on an island, because, if they caught them, they'd catch them and they'd just leave them on an island somewhere, and maroon became the name for it from that, the runaways. That's what they did with their runaways, and that's how that all come about. And now, freebooter is another one. Freebooter, right? And that'd be an actually Dutch one, a freebooter, right? And a freebooter is somebody who goes around freely stealing booty, right? Was basically the Dutch thing like that. So that's how they call them freebooters, right? And another Dutch word, right? Dutch word for pirate is actually filibuster, all right? Filibuster is actually the Dutch word for pirate. Now, that might ring a bell to people. They go, filibuster, I've heard of that. Where have I heard that? Well, that became into politics, right? Because these people in the Senate in America started it off, right? Where they would just have some big debate that was going on, and they would just interrupt it because they didn't want it to vote on it, and they would just take over things. They'd hijack the debate, and they keep talking. And they called it a filibuster, which was actually the Dutch word for pirates. There you go. So it was like, that's all about hijacking. You can almost say filibustering is what I've been doing, just standing up here going on and on and on, taking over your valuable airtime here. But that'd be a pirating, so why wouldn't I do that? Because it's just another name for pirating. Right, now, I think that's all the ones I was going to cover for that. Now, I think I'm going to talk about some of the animals, right? I was going to talk about some of the animals. That's why he's here, the old friend here, Wilson the parrot, right? Just to talk a bit more about the animals we have on board. We talked about the dogs, how they help with the training. They nip you on the backside, we do the wrong thing and all that kind of stuff like that. One of the animals that we had a lot of on the ship, right, including weevils. We used to have a lot of weevils and the biscuits and stuff like that. But also rats. There'd be lots of rats. Some ships would have more rats than sailors, right? They'd have rat hunts. They'd go thousands of rats and kill them off and all that. So owning a cat, right? Owning a cat to hunt those rats. A good mouser is worth his weight in gold, all right? Also, all right, these cats were lucky. They were seen as lucky. The luck was, right, if you could take a cat out with you, right, and come back with a cat still alive on board the ship and all that, that was a lucky ship, all right, very lucky ship. And if it was a black cat, right, if you're on a ship and a black cat comes towards you, right, that's lucky. If the cat comes towards you and then turns away, unlucky, unlucky. And if a black cat should go over the board, oh, that was a cursed ship, you better get back to port or go and sail a different ship straight away because that was a cursed ship. These were the kind of things we did with cats and stuff like that. What other animals we had? Oh, we had the cows. We talked about having cows and pigs and all those things you're going to eat and stuff like that you'd have on board. And the crow, remember the crow and the crow's nest, right? You go out, you use it as a navigational aid, send the crow off and found out, as the crow flies, it's straight away between 2 points, so we'd follow the crow towards land, or if it wasn't land, it'd come back and land on top of the things like that. And also, right, we used to have monkeys and parrots, right, as pets. Crazy as it may seem, why would you have a pet? Well, it had twofold, right? The monkeys and that, and parrots, were like exotic animals. So when you got back to Europe and places like that, you could actually sell them for a fortune, right? They were actually worth gold. They were really valuable, right? Really valuable, right? So we would do that. We'd keep them. And people, when the pirates began to get parrots as their own pets, right? Because the people that own the pet, that buy the parrots and the monkeys as their pets in Europe and stuff like that, were wealthy people. It's a sign of prestige to have one. So pirate captains liking to be prestige themselves would have a parrot of their own because it gave them rank and make you feel good about yourself having a pet parrot and stuff like that. And so that's why we had pet parrots and pet monkeys, because partly for the value, partly because of the prestige it brought to us as sea captains and stuff like that. And then other animal relationships we had animals and things like when you're on these islands and stuff like that, they didn't have cows and stuff like that. We'd eat monkeys and snakes and all sorts of things like that. Turtles, all those kind of things. Well, these are the kind of relationship we had with animals as we went along, right? So it gives you a bit of an idea of what kind of things we did, all right? Another fun fact about rats, right, that I don't let you know, that they actually can laugh, right? They laugh. Same as us, right? They laugh, right? Except there's this high-pitched, right? A little bit more high-pitched one like that. They're not ha-ha-ha, they're like hee, but they have little breaks between them, they laugh and that kind of stuff. I know this, right? Because old Weird Bob, you remember Weird Bob? We talked about it a few times, right? He used to run experiments with rats just to test this out, right? He used to tickle them. If you tickle a rat, right, it'll laugh. Crazy story. If it doesn't bite you, it'll laugh. Some of these rats he'd sort of tamed a bit beforehand. But that's true. Rats laugh, just like humans. That's why they end up using them in a lot of testing and stuff like that, because they have similar traits. And one of them is they'll laugh if you tickle them, all right? Tell them a joke, well, they're a hard audience if you're going to tell a joke, You got to really understand good rat humour to get them laughing like that, Bob could do it, but the rest of us, we struggled. All right. Now, I think I'm going to finish up with a bit of story about me and Wilson here, right? Me and the old Wilson. The other day, right, we walked into a bar together, right? Thinking, we'll parch our throats. How's he coming in? That old barman, right, he looked at us, put together, right? He looked at us and said, "You can't come into that mangy, disgusting thing." And I said to him, "He's had his shots. He's washed him. What's wrong with that?" And the barman looked at me and said, "I was talking to the parrot." Oh, he was a cheeky bugger, he was. He was. You know what he said to me after that? He said, parrots aren't that fashion anymore anyway. Other day, right, he said, I had a parrot come in here with a cow on his shoulder. And I said, cow on his shoulder? That is just because he hasn't worked out how to milk his parrot yet. That'd be right. But that'd be all for today, shipmates. We'll get out of here on that note, as sour as that milk might have been. Because we're going to come back next time with some more stuff. I think we're going to do the strongholds of the parrots, the pirates and the parrots. Their strongholds and stuff like that we'll cover next week, maybe. Or maybe we'll go Henry Avery, right? He'd be another successful pirate and interesting stories. Another thing I'm thinking of covering as well is some pirate disaster stories. Those great plans that just went little bit astray. That'd be right. Because not everything works together the way it should. And, it's important you learn the good with the bad, the up with the smooth, the big wave that washes you off the boat and, as well as the ones that catch you. The fair wind and foul, is what I was trying to say there when I went, I think I was doing a parrot impersonation there. Parrot impersonation. Here it goes. That's right, I lost his tongue, didn't I? That'd be right. So, I think we should be done. Now, I'm going to just take it on trust that you remember in your port and your starboard, right? Your bow and your aft, all right? So, just keep thinking about those things, the important bits of the ship, the sailing tips you had, and all those things we've learned over this whole period. So, once you're released, from this covenness, and you want to go somewhere, you can think about, taking out your sailboat, and, conquering a few places, getting yourself a little booty for yourself. But right now, I think it's time for us to whistle down, maybe have a slight nap after we've piped down for the evening. So, this will be me and my good mate, Wilson, the first mate parrot, saying, Arrivederci, my piratey friends.